Hello and welcome to today's Business Spotlight, where we are joined by the incredible Macauley Coyle from Whealth Mortgages. How are you, Macauley? How are you doing?
Yeah, great. Thank you. How are you doing?
Yeah, really good. Thank you. Really good. I wish I could say the sun is shining, but it is not today. It is
No, it's a
hammering it down.
bit miserable. Bit
I
miserable this
know,
morning, isn't it?
I know it really is. And I can see that you're in your car. So thank you for joining us
No
from your
worries.
car today. Yeah,
Yeah,
let's get
don't worry,
going.
I'm stationary, so I'm not driving and doing the interview. So I've just been in and out of a few meetings, so I've had to just jump in the car to do this with yourself. But I'm looking forward to it. Thank you for the invite.
Not a problem at all. I like the fact that you said that I am stationary. I am not, even though I am hands-free, I am not driving as we
That's it.
perform this interview. No, I love that. But let's jump straight in. Tell us, Macauley, what is it that you do and how long you've been doing it for?
So I'm the director of Whealth Limited, Whealth Mortgages, which is based in Warwickshire. So I've been running the business for just over 2 years now. So
Mhm.
we offer kind of mortgage and protection to retail clients, buy-to-let investors, kind of a whole vary of clients at the moment. But I guess our main thing is obviously focusing on the mortgage and protection side of things. But as I said, yeah, it's been about just over 2 years. Kind of built up quite a good client base within the first 18 months, and then kind of now looking at focusing on other areas, what we can go into as well.
Okay. Well, we'll dive into those other areas in a second, but I'm really intrigued. What motivated you to start your business?
Um, I guess I've always been quite entrepreneurial from a young age. So my kind of background to mortgages before I started mortgages and before I went to university, I was competing professionally as a Thai boxer. So I'd done that for about 6 years, 7 years competing professionally Thai boxing. Had my first fight at 15, went professional at 16 over in Thailand. So I had my first professional fight in Thailand just after my GCSEs. I went out to Thailand for a few months and stayed there. So a couple of people from the gym were doing a bit of a gym trip. So I ended up going there. Didn't really have the intentions to fight when I was there. Just wanted to kind of learn
Yeah.
more, kind of improve my level at that point. And then had my first fight. And then kind of after that, it kind of started as a bit of a career for me from the age of 16, really. And then after coming back from Thailand, I was studying to go to university, but then I kind of put that on hold. I went back to Thailand again for 6 months. That was like the longest stint I was out there. And then from that point, that's where I took it a lot more serious. And then ended up I was UK number one at 57 kilo. Won a few British titles and a few other bouts. So I kind of, from that experience, competing, traveling, and making money from fighting, essentially, that was quite a good experience from like the entrepreneurial side, where you as a fighter you're a product kind of already, and you're kind of like branding yourself as this fighter. So I learned quite a lot early on in that experience, like being a fighter at Thai boxing. And obviously with Thai boxing, it's not a massive sport, so the money wasn't ever like boxing where you're making millions of pounds or anything like that. You're making maybe a couple £100 to start off with. So you kind of had to look at other ways you could make money from Thai boxing, so like teaching, doing seminars and equipment and stuff like that. So I had quite a big career in Thai boxing early on. And then it wasn't until I kind of got to early 20s and realised getting punched in the face wasn't the easiest way to make money.
Oh, there's easier ways, I'm sure.
Yeah. So from that kind of stage, when I kind of done everything what I wanted to do in Thai boxing, kind of got to a point where my main goal was kind of to go to Thailand and fight in the stadiums and everything like that, which I'd done at a very young age. So I already kind of ticked that off. And then from that point on, I kind of wanted to transfer the skills what I've kind of developed in that experience, kind of like working hard at something, being disciplined, kind of just, putting all my focus into one thing and then achieving it, and then looking at, what else can I do? And for me, it was always something where I wanted to go to university and kind of expand my knowledge in things. Obviously, everything was quite Thai boxing focused.
Yeah.
So I ended up doing a degree in finance and investment at Coventry University. So I was still competing while I was doing that. So I was kind of like doing kind of two things at once. But then once I finished my degree, that's when I kind of went into the career I'm in now, where I kind of fully just put all my eggs in one basket with this.
Yeah, no, I like the fact that you've taken transferable knowledge and skills from martial arts into your life, into your career, personal branding, focus, laser focus, and discipline. I think that's really quite unique, and from a very young age as well. So
looking back now, it just sounded a bit crazy. I think at the time it seemed a bit, because when you're kind of like involved with the sport and stuff, it's like, oh yeah, it's just a fight. Like, you don't really think of it as a big thing, but looking back now, it was quite good to get those experiences at such a young age. And obviously I feel like looking back, the younger you kind of like experience things like that, you learn a lot more lessons, because you've got more time to kind of see how things pan out, and you can kind of like see what the results of it over the next 5 years or so. But yeah, so obviously after going to university, that's when I got some experience working for kind of wealth management firms and a few other companies. And then it wasn't until I think it was literally just as the lockdown kind of was starting, I was looking at a career change, and I actually got a place on the St James Place Academy. So St James Place is like a big IFA company. Obviously, it's one of I think it's the biggest one in the UK. And I got a place, so they were going to kind of pay for my exams and kind of help train you up as a financial advisor, because it kind of moved naturally from the degree I was doing, finance and investment. It kind of set you up to become a financial advisor. But the only thing with that, because of COVID and the lockdowns and everything, it like really disrupted their kind of time frame with stuff, with like the training. So their next training wasn't until kind of like a year later. And that was something where I spoke to kind of like the recruitment guy there, and he probably gave me like the best bit of advice, where he said, like, if you want to kind of get started and kind of like work for yourself and be involved in like financial services industry, like getting your qualifications for being a mortgage advisor is probably like the best thing to do at this stage, because that's something where you can kind of naturally move into being a financial advisor kind of after you've become a mortgage broker, a mortgage advisor. So yeah, that's kind of the steps I took to get to that point. And I guess the confidence I had in kind of starting a business for myself in like mortgages, I never had any experience in it except from university and from what you can learn online, was I guess down to the kind of confidence I had from my previous experience of like fighting and kind of working for myself. That kind of, it gave me, I seen it more as a challenge, so it kind of like excited me to start the business and take it from there, really.
Yeah, don't back away from a challenge. I can't imagine that's in your vocabulary. Not at all. What do you do? I mean, obviously mortgage advice and financial advice, it's quite a busy industry. There's quite a lot of competition. What do you do that makes you stand out?
It's quite interesting, because I think when I first started, the main thing I was trying to focus on was like a bespoke service. So like, I know there's, even in Warwick and Leamington, like I know people personally who are mortgage advisors or financial advisors. So it's like you can't see it as kind of competition, as like, I'm trying to compete against them for clients, because you have to kind of see it as like you're an individual who's offering a service which is totally different to someone else, because everyone obviously has their things what they're they're probably better. They might be better at you than certain things, or they might have be from a bigger company or something like that. But I think the main thing when it comes to like customer service and the client relationship is your kind of individual approach on it, and how you can like really offer a bespoke service and kind of help the client out as much as you can. And that's obviously different for every client, because every client has different needs and there's different kind of complexities with their case or the situation they're in. So what I found is like the first clients I kind of had, they were obviously kind of from like family and friends. So like they've chosen to go with me because they already know me, they already trust me. So it's like I had to make sure the service what I'm providing is going to kind of live up to that kind of trust, and they've kind of invested in you to kind of help them with something what it's quite a big sorting someone's mortgage out if they're a first time buyer or something, they've never been through the process before. I just feel like to stand out you really have to really kind of like sell your services to them, and like not just like from telling them what you're going to do, but actually doing it as well. Like the action side of it is the main thing, I think.
Oh, that's such a good answer. Walk the walk as well as talk the talk. I love that.
Yeah, because I think you see quite a lot where the word like bespoke is kind of like thrown around, where like, oh, we offer a bespoke service, or we really care about our customers and clients and stuff. But I think a lot of people think like you can kind of just say that as like a bit of a marketing ploy, but then the kind of truth is there when you're getting referrals and people are saying like if you kind of like look at the reviews I've had like recently, a lot with like the market being so like volatile and everything like that, things changing a lot. That's where like being an advisor, you really have to kind of walk the walk on it. Like you can't just say you're going to help them out and then not get back to them, or kind of like not be there when they're trying to call you and ask you questions. So yeah, I think kind of actions obviously is good. You have to have a balance with it as well, but I feel like really kind of going above and beyond when you're providing services is essential.
No, I hear you loud and clear. I think that would attribute to your growth. You mentioned earlier that the first 18 months you were concentrating on building your client base. So I hear that you was really quite strategic with that, but is there anything else that you would like to build upon that attributed to the growth of your business?
I guess like going back to obviously like the Thai boxing experience, I was quite lucky to have like a network of people who they were confident in coming to me for help with mortgage or protection without knowing if I was even any good at it, just because they knew me from that kind of industry. So like having like people who who already know you and trust you definitely helped. And then I guess it's one of those like where it said like not running away from a challenge. It was like as soon as I started, like I wanted to know everything about it, like the mortgage industry, from the protection side to like the house, like as a mortgage broker, mortgage advisor, and like doing protection, you kind of have to be able to wear a few different hats and like know, because like clients are asking you about like the housing market, about insurance, about this and that. Like you have to be able to kind of flip through the different specific areas what you cover. So I think really understanding the services what you're providing gives you that extra kind of edge. And given, I remember like speaking to clients where you're just kind of on the phone for like an hour and just like talking through all these different questions, but giving them as much information as you can, so like they have that confidence in you that like what you're talking about. And it's something what you have to, and I feel like with that, if it's something what you don't really have an interest in or a passion for, you'll kind of struggle to retain the information. Whereas if you have a bit of an interest in it, which like I did obviously like when I started, and like that's kind of what helped me, because I was interested, I was able to kind of like enjoy learning about it and becoming as knowledgeable as I can about that specific kind of area.
That's a really interesting point. Such an interesting point. If you're not really interested in it, then you won't retain the information. That's
Yeah,
yeah, that's really insightful. Actually, they do say there's a brilliant saying, isn't there, that the business will never outgrow the business owner, and so having that time for learning is
yeah,
essential.
yeah, yeah. And I think that's probably, to be honest, like probably one of the trickier things I find at the moment, where when you're like busy with like day-to-day business, like finding the time to kind of sit down and kind of do kind of what you're doing when you first started, where you obviously have more time
Mm.
to kind of like really kind of like get up to date with what's going on, and
Yeah. How do you do that? How
learning.
do you, if you could advise somebody just coming into any industry, if you could advise anybody looking to start a business, 18 months in, so you're busy with the day to day, what's your advice or tip for finding that time, committing the time to learning?
I guess for me, like with my routine, like I think from like a training background and stuff, like I like to get up quite early and kind of like get things like just get started with my day like as soon as possible. So I always find like the early hours, like before 9 o'clock, like 7 to 9, that's where you haven't really got anyone calling you or chasing you for anything. Like you haven't got emails to reply to like straight away. That's like the perfect time to kind of like sit down and just like just go through anything. What if there's, depending on, obviously it's different to every business, there's different things going on, but with your business, kind of like catching up on like what's going on, like kind of in the market, or like what kind of things you can keep on top of, and kind of plan ahead. So I think that's the main thing as well, like planning ahead and keeping like a finger on the pulse, essentially, of like what's happening. And it's one of those where like you can't, during the day it's quite hard to kind of like, say if it's like 3 o'clock, 2 o'clock, you can't really just sit down and just like turn your phone off, or not kind of engage with clients if like if you're a kind of a client servicing business. So I feel like that's where you have to allocate yourself a bit of time, and for me personally it works quite well, kind of early morning doing that.
Yeah. Yeah. So commit the time first thing in the morning. No, I like it. Which brings me brilliantly onto my next question, actually, which is because you mentioned about not being able to switch your phone off and certainly being on hand for your clients. How
Yeah.
do you balance your personal life with the demands of running a business?
Yes, it's a tricky one, because I think, like I was speaking to someone about this before, where recently, when you first start the business as well, it's like you feel like you can't have a balance, because it's like if you're not working, like you're not growing the business, and you feel kind of too guilty doing anything which isn't like business related in the day, or even at the weekend. Like I remember when I first started, like I speak to clients at the weekend and everything like that, just because you feel like if you don't speak to them, they're not going to hang about, like they're just going to move on to someone else and everything like that. But I feel like once you, I think it's a lot different from starting off, compared to like once you're a bit more established, you can really be a bit stricter with like your work life balance. So like I wouldn't do any kind of like client calls at the weekend, like because I have a young family, like our son's just turned 2, so it's like it's nice to be able to have that time where you just kind of fully switch off, and just if it's that urgent, it's a bit different. But most of the time the client, they're not gonna go elsewhere. If you're not going to speak to them at the weekend, they're going to wait until Monday, or you can have that communication. I think that's the main thing as well, where people are scared to kind of communicate their kind of limits with people as well.
So,
So that's something I kind of make clear, that if someone kind of wants to do a call, but it's kind of at a time where I've already got something planned, outside of work, I'll make it clear that like I wouldn't be able to do a call then. And then it's up to them if they want to kind of go elsewhere. That's their decision. But 99% of the time, most people are quite reasonable. Like everyone's got a life outside of work and everything else. So people are, as long as, I feel like it's just a communication thing. It's not one of those things where you can't just like ignore if you're kind of not working in the week, or maybe you've, because that's the thing, when you work for yourself as well, like annual leave and everything is
Yeah.
you never really officially have it because you're always kind of in work mode. But I found like we went away on holiday the other month, and it was like I didn't take my laptop or anything, and it was just nice to just like have. It was only a few days, but just have that bit where people were trying to contact me. I had one client message me actually. It was one of my friends, so like, obviously had like my personal number to
Right.
WhatsApp me, and then he was like, "Oh, are you available for a call?" And I was like, "Oh, like I'm on holiday at the moment," and he was like, "Oh, I'm sorry, like let me know when you're back." Like
Yeah.
we'll sort out. So like that, so that was nice to be able to be in that position, not to like kind of have it affect your life balance. But yeah, that's probably like one of the tricky things of being a business owner and like running your business, definitely.
It is setting clear boundaries, and communication are key criteria to being able to balance, for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
So no, thank you for sharing. Which brings me to my next question, which is, and it sounds like you've learned a hell of a lot over the last couple of years, but what would you say your biggest learning has been?
I guess from like you know, a generic business point of view of kind of like whatever business you're starting, as long as you have that interest and like passion of doing it, just be kind of patient with it, and don't expect to have like results overnight, but just like persevere, be patient, and just really kind of like just focus on what you're doing day to day instead of kind of, I feel like with like business plans and stuff, where definitely when you start out, like I had it where with the network I'm with, like we sat down and did like a business plan before I started, and then a few months in, like I was like nowhere near kind of like the targets or anything like that, and it can kind of put you into a bit of a like panic mode of like, oh, maybe I shouldn't be doing it because I'm not hit these targets or done this. But then once you're kind of just focusing on like what can you do day to day to kind of like get to that point, things start to work out a bit more kind of like a bit more naturally. Whereas if you just kind of focus on like what's not happening, you kind of you get into a bit of like a pessimistic mindset as well. So instead of focusing on like what's not kind of happening for you, focus on what is working, and then like how you can kind of like build on that as well.
Yeah, great advice. Absolutely. How do you manage if you get into a pessimistic mind frame, how do you snap yourself out of it?
Yeah, it's quite, I think, like I've seen like you see like a few memes and stuff with business owners like self-employed, where you're constantly going through like phases of like, oh, this isn't working, like I should just quit and do something else, and then next minute you're like, this is like the best thing ever, and it's like you're living like your dream life. But like, so like when I get into like a bit of a pessimistic mindset, or like feel a bit like things are not going the way I want them to go, that's where I kind of just remember that it's just a phase. Like it's not permanent. Like things temporarily do go bad sometimes, or like they don't work out the way you want them to work out. And definitely with the mortgage industry, with like working with lenders and stuff, where you know you might think a case is going like swimmingly, like everything's fine, and then there's something what they're not, you know, you need to provide a bit more information on, or they're not happy with, or you know the rates change last minute, so you have to kind of look for the best like new products. So there's always things what are always going to change, but I feel like, yeah, it's kind of like to stay out of like pessimistic. I'm quite fortunate, obviously, like with my other hobby of like Thai boxing and stuff. Like, you know, I still train and teach Thai boxing, so that's something totally different to what I do day to day. So it really like allows me to switch off and just like not even really think about anything work related, or anything what might be like a bit pessimistic.
Yeah.
And then I think, yeah, like another good bit of advice, like what I tend to do as well, is if it kind of gets to the point where you're trying to sort something out, but it's just not going your way for the day, kind of just don't exhaust yourself on it. Sometimes it's better just to like step away from like a problem, and then kind of at least like, you know, sleep on it, and then go to it the next day from like a different perspective. That's always quite a good thing to do, because it's sometimes where you want to solve everything at once, you kind of just you can work yourself up into more kind of a negative mindset then.
That's a brilliant tip. Absolutely brilliant tip. Don't exhaust yourself with it. Step away and sleep on it. I love it. I think that's great. Where do you see yourself in 5 years? And could we please end on any words of advice for other business owners who are looking to grow?
In 5 years, it's probably just the same situation I'm in now, really, where the business is going really well. It's something what I enjoy doing day to day. I'd like to kind of grow the business in the sense of having more people involved and everything, but I guess like from a bit of a holistic point of view is just to make sure I'm still enjoying what I'm doing each day. Financially, obviously, as the business grows, it's going to benefit me anyway. But yeah, kind of just make sure that the business is doing well. I'm enjoying the role still, because it's one of those, you see a lot of people as well, I think, where their goals of I want to be making X amount of money or this and that, but they're not actually enjoying their job or what they're doing. So there's no point really making all of that money if you're not enjoying it and you're not having a good kind of work-life balance as well. So yeah, grow the business. I've got a few other kind of ideas what I'm looking to try and set up throughout this year, next year, hopefully. So yeah, kind of venture into a few different areas of business with property as well. And then advice I'd give someone who's looking to grow their business is that what it is? I'd say yeah, just obviously it's something where it's different for every business because it depends what kind of industry they're in. But even though things obviously economically at the moment, everyone's feeling it with the increase in costs and interest rates going up, people's mortgages, it's really tough for a lot of people. So if you were starting a business right now from scratch, it would be a really difficult time, definitely with cost. And that's where you're going to be kind of offering a service or a product where people are struggling with money a bit more at this stage. So you really have to kind of make sure that it has a value for someone. If it hasn't got a value in society now, then it's going to be really challenging to get people to invest in it or to buy the product or pay you for a service. You really have to clarify what value you're kind of adding to as a service or a product. But yeah, as growth it's one of those where it's different for every business, I guess, but as long as you're kind of adding a worthwhile value, just be patient with it and persevere. And the economic side of things, it's out of everyone's control, so it's something where you just have to adapt to it, and kind of over the long run it will work out better for you.
Yeah. Would you say, Macauley, that because that sort of came from the perspective of if you're going to start a business, just make sure that it's of value for people at the moment because of the economy. Would you say that it's also relevant for people that have businesses just to check in?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah,
with what their value is to the customer.
Yeah, 100%. And that's where I feel what we were speaking about before with kind of getting help with your business and kind of looking at what you're doing currently, reviewing that. Are you offering the best value to your customers? Because that's where when people are kind of looking at their bank statements and stuff, and they're going oh, I'm spending X amount of money on this and that, I really need to cut down on expenditure. If the product or service you're offering isn't really adding that much value, then people are going to kind of look at stop doing business with you, stop paying for products you're selling or services. And that's kind of a good place to review, really, because essentially that's all you're adding value to people. People are paying for a service or a product. You need to justify it, definitely in times of where it's a bit harder for everyone.
Yeah, definitely. I think that is a fantastic point to end on. So I just want to say a massive thank you for joining me. It's been an absolute pleasure.
No problem. Thank you.
And I hope we get to speak again soon.
Yeah, and you take care. Thank you very
Thanks,
much.
Macauley. Take care. Bye.
Bye bye.